speaking. If you can try to keep your statements brief. If you're coming up for or against the ordinance, if you want to put it on record that you're for or against it, put your name on record, and that you're for or against it, you agree to people before you or something, you can do that. We're going to try to move it along. I'd appreciate no applauding between people speaking. And if we just move rapidly, we'd like to give everybody who wants to speak a chance to speak. Thank you.
We'll continue with ordinance 3-17, which is an ordinance of the Township of Jackson amending and supplementing Chapter 244 of the Township Code entitled Land Use and Development Regulations. At this time, we'll have a public hearing on ordinance 3-17 only. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance may do so at this time. Please address the council at the microphone, pronounce your name, spell it, and please give your address.
Anyone? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close this portion of the meeting. Second. 1 second, we have somebody coming forward. Yeah, we'll close that one.
Good evening, Bill Fox.
Excuse me, Bill, can you just try to get that just a little closer to you, please? Or you could hang on.
Put it around the side and closer to you.
Yeah.
Is that better? Good evening, Bill Fox, Town Road. I'm just a little bit confused by this ordinance as it regards to, as I'm reading it, it talks about eliminating public schools in a number of residential zones. Is that correct?
Yes, if I may, Council President, I know there may be some confusion, though it seems like people have a pretty good grip on it. The first ordinance, the 317, does reduce the number of residential zones in which schools are permitted. It defines dormitory as a term. It's ordinance 417 that has the prohibition on dormitories throughout zones.
Okay. Where you're restricting the location of schools now in such a large area of town, I wondered if there was any discussion with the school board as to how they felt this would impact their schools now and into the future.
When we did the master plan, we addressed all that, and they were all aware of this ordinance. We posted everything, and there's been no comment from them.
And also, as I understand it, it will eliminate private and parochial schools in those zones as well.
When you amend land use, you can't distinguish between the two, correct, counsel?
That's correct.
But they're both, in both cases, then they're eliminated or excluded?
Correct. Public, private, and parochial schools as a form of private school are treated the same.
So in that list of schools then, would that include like the Goddard School?
It would include any school that falls within the definition of a school in the zoning ordinance.
Well, the zoning ordinance does not define schools.
Then it would fall within, the only thing that I could say is regarding something like the Goddard School, if it functions primarily as a daycare center, and I can't be specific about the Goddard School because I don't know the scope of their operations, that may be defined differently.
Now, how about remedial schools?
There, again, it would be within the context of what a school is.
But the school is not defined.
Schools are defined through state law.
Well, what's your interpretation then? Of the school
I'm
law?
sorry, I don't know what you mean by a remedial school, so maybe that would be helpful to understand.
These schools you see on TV where kids have trouble and they need tutorial skills.
Are you meaning like a Huntington center?
Yeah, like
thing?
a Huntington or something like that.
Whether that would be defined within a school, it would depend on the scope of the operation of the individual. If it's something only in afternoons for short periods, then probably not. If it's something that's throughout the day for all grade levels and does comprehensive instruction, then probably yes. But it, again, would be something that would be determined on the scope of operations of a particular particular enterprise.
Well, how about dance schools, martial arts schools, music schools?
Those would also not be permitted, again, as far as the scope. These are the residential zones. What this ordinance does is reduce the number of schools in residential areas, just as all other commercial activities, and most of the kinds of schools you're describing now would fall within the parameters of commercial activity.
And you know, Hope Church, just down here on Bennett's Mills, they're advertising for students for preparatory school, I guess like a prep school, that would not be allowed.
Certainly a traditional prep school would not be allowed in the residential zones.
And Jesus Harvest Time Ministries on Freehold Road advertises their school of ministry. That would not be permitted.
In a residential zone, again, it would really, you're giving me examples, I'm not trying to be evasive. It's going to depend on operations and how it's connected to an existing operations and the things that, in the examples that you're giving now. But for the most part, if it falls under the parameter of a school or commercial enterprise that is not permitted in the residential zone, then it would not be permitted. That is certainly as a general statement.
It just seems to me that I'm not real sure what the purpose of you're trying to do with this ordinance, but it just seems to be that it's anti-education, it's anti-religion, and it's anti-arts as it relates to music and those kind of studies. I just think it's a little short-sighted. You just seem like you're shooting yourself in the foot to solve a problem that is bigger than you. You know, if the problem is to keep Jews out of Jackson, then you need to. That's not the
Sure, and this really would go to anyone who comes to the phone. This is public comment, and you certainly have free speech rights as such. What the request is that people maintain a civil and polite way of speaking that is welcoming of all points of view and is not accusatory. Certainly, any statement that is made at the microphone, though the council cannot respond and no one is trying to inhibit your speech, all such comments become part of the record and become part of the record of the ordinance. As Councilman Martin said, that is not the purpose of the ordinance. And we ask that everyone express their views and feelings as you have, that that it's anti-education or that it's unduly restrictive. Those are points to make, but to highlight a particular group and to suggest that that is part of the motivation of the council, ask that you refrain from making those comments if you can.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I speak, please?
My name is Larry Holloway. I've lived
Larry, could you spell your last name, please?
Holloway.
Thank you.
I've been a resident in Jackson Township for 24 years. Before that, I lived in Lakewood for 7 years. I've seen the changes in both towns. This,
You gotta face it. You gotta.
well, I'll show everybody else first. See that, please? This is from the painting of a photograph taken as I left the debris field at the World Trade Center after helping carry out the last survivor following the 9/11 attacks. I wasn't a fireman or a policeman, but our country was attacked and I ran to help. For my volunteer efforts, I now suffer severe medical issues caused by breathing air that was more caustic than Drano. While recovering from 9/11 related surgery in early 2012, I received a letter from Jackson Township leading me to discover that through an illegal subdivision approval, the road to my property had been deleted. This road has been on maps and in deeds for over 65 years, including the filed plat map for the subdivision. I uncovered the planning board didn't have the authority to approve that subdivision in the first place, sued over it, lost the suit, and had continually failed to follow the judge's ruling in the resolution conditions. So I am all too familiar with bad zoning in this town. Following that letter, I met with our town's administration, led by our esteemed Jose Torres. I showed him my 9/11 photographs, told them I was sick from volunteering for our country, and pleaded with them to make this right. To date, these pleas have gone unanswered and have cost me 5 years of my life in court and thousands upon thousands in legal fees that by right I shouldn't have spent to fix a problem they caused me. All the while begging our town with tears streaming down my face to please help me so I can spend what time I have left with my family. My property is surrounded by a sea of houses on 1-acre lots, and according to maps in the 2009 master plan, is one of the last developable parcels in my section of town. I've continually offered my property to our town for open space. The last time, following T-Mobile's proposal to put a cell tower on my property, which after very preliminary contract negotiations would have netted millions of dollars. I offered our town a deal that would have saved my property for open space, paid for itself, plus made our town money and got them out of court, saving the town even more money. What did they say, Mr. Brezzi? They said no. That's what they said. According to the 2009 master plan, barely any of Jackson's 64,000 acres have been personally preserved by this town. If the taxpayers desire to preserve what undeveloped land is left, then tell the town to start buying it. And yet another lawsuit Jackson lost. Judge Winkelstein told them they can preserve open space, but they must pay the owners just compensation.
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry,
You have to stick to
two things, Mr. Holloway. First of all, I just want to let the council know in case there's any inclination. The matters that Mr. Holloway is addressing are currently under appeal, so they are active litigation. Mr. Holloway,
I don't have 2 more years of my life to wait for it under appeal. This is what justice is all about. I'm going to finish my statement. Do you mind? I need to hear from you. I listen to your every time I go there. Lie after lie after lie after lie. I have proof in black and white that the township landlocked my property, didn't have the authority to pass the subdivision, and still screws me up. Can I finish my statement, please?
Mr. Holloway, just
Can I finish my statement?
Just remember this is on ordinance 317.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
We'll get to it. There are continual public outcries. Save the land. Just rezone it. Just make people's property so it can't be developed. Take a good look at me because I am the result of those failed land use practices in this town. Then look at the facts. Because there was barely any land left in 2009, and what is left the town clearly doesn't want. Back to the ordinances. These proposed ordinances will accomplish nothing but cost the town's taxpayers thousands more in legal fees for court cases. In fact, a member of the zoning board publicly stated these are ill-conceived ordinances. After being asked if the master plan and the ordinances are inconsistent with the law, he goes on to say, some are, but no one ever knows unless they are challenged. In fact, I'm sorry. According to the 2009 master plan, and I quote, Jackson Township is primarily a bedroom community which relies on the neighboring towns to satisfy its commercial needs. Because of the physical size of Jackson, growth has not been significantly impeded until recent years, resulting in less than 10% of the township left undeveloped, and only a few major parcels and tracts remain. Realistically, 8 years after the 2009 master plan, I can only imagine less than half of that actually exists. Prior changes to Jackson's land use plan in response to outcries from the public have had no effect on building. Map LU4.
Please face the council and address the council.
It's on file in the master plan. Map LU4. Map LU4, the remaining developable land, shows there is literally no area in Jackson that does not contain residential development, and the predominant land use in Jackson is single-family residential development on an average lot size of 0.08 acres. Single-family homes by law and definition can't legally be used for dormitories anyway. This ordinance stands to remove in their entirety these allowed uses from Jackson's residential land use section 24446 subsection 6, which states, excluding public schools, private or parochial schools not operated for profit. So the question is, where would any schools, if removed from residential neighborhoods, be built when the master plan clearly shows all of Jackson is basically a residential neighborhood? The intent of this ordinance is clear and the answer is simple. Nowhere. An attorney correctly stated at the last council meeting, this ordinance on its face is unconstitutional. Banning any schools from residential zones in a town that has nothing but residential zones is about as constitutional as landlocking and rezoning my property to 3-acre lots when everything surrounding it is on 1-acre lots in a town whose master plan clearly states the average lot size in the whole town is 0.08 acres. In fact, at the 2009 master plan hearings, Chairman Drezzy said the biggest changes in 2001 rezoned the majority of the town to 3-acre lots, which sounded good at the time but accomplished nothing except put a burden on residents like myself and property owners. Chris Warren of the Alamo Group, who was hired by the town to implement the 2009 master plan, stated, at one time zoning was changed from R1 to R3. He advised the 1-acre zone be reapplied from a conforming standpoint. Due to the prior zoning changes, there are now hundreds of non-conforming lots in the R3 district. I can attest from my personal experience, no effort has been made to reduce the non-conforming conditions and the number of variances needed to reinvest in existing neighborhoods. The municipal land use law clearly states a zoning ordinance must be drawn with consideration of the character of each district and most appropriate use of land. The regulations in zoning ordinance shall be uniform throughout each district. No zoning ordinance governing the use of land by or for schools shall, by any of its provisions or any regulation adopted, discriminate between public and private nonprofit schools. Jackson's PFE zone, which is one that they're suggesting to put schools into, already existed as public facilities and education. It was formed solely for the purpose of the 2009 master plan for existing and planned public facilities and schools, not to accommodate private or parochial ones. Rezoning the last few parcels so they don't conform to the character of the surrounding neighborhoods is unlawful, and taking away freedoms allowed by the Constitution is unconstitutional. I find it unconscionable the way I've been treated by this town. Shameful that I have to be here for fighting for property rights that are guaranteed by the municipal land use law and the Constitution, when just last week I was lying in a hospital bed fighting for my health because of my sacrifice on 9/11 for our country and freedoms. Is this the kind of community Jackson has become? One that tortures its sick heroes and is so filled with hate they allow illegal ordinances to be passed, knowing full well they will cost taxpayers and property owners thousands in legal fees to defend? Is this how you treat your neighbor, held prisoner for 5 years? Someone whose only crime is the desire to spend what time he may have left with his family and not in court fighting over his property? Here's a quote from the 2009 master plan. Growth also results in changes to the community fabric. Newcomers to a community often have different goals and visions than the long-standing residents. Imagine how I felt 22 years ago when bulldozers destroyed every bit of forest around my house.
Gentlemen, Robert LaPlante.
Robert, what was your last name?
Laplante, LaPlante.
L-A-P-L.
Ante.
Thank you.
So the first gentleman that spoke, looks like it's supposed to be public comment here, but it looks like they had an argument with the guy, and you allowed it to turn into an argument, like a lawyer and, you know, the judge, that kind of thing. So if we want to get through this, just let people talk, let them go away. And also, you asked for people to like stick to the point. The gentleman here, who I really appreciate all the love and he gave to our country, is fine. But after people talk for 15, 20 seconds, we don't know what they're talking about anymore anyway, because we don't have the attention span. So if you want to do that, like the next person comes up.
Okay.
Just say your piece and you sit down.
You're done. Anybody else like to come forward? Nobody comes forward, we close the public portion meeting on this ordinance. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody
second reading, advertise the notice of passage and approval in an approved newspaper as required by law.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second, roll call, please.
Councilman Calogero.
Yes.
Councilman Martin.
Yes.
Council Vice President Updegray.
Yes.
Council President Brezzi.
Yes.
Ordinance 3-17 passes. We'll continue with ordinance 4-17, which is an ordinance of the Township of Jackson, amending and supplementing chapter 244 of the Township Code, entitled Land Use and Development Regulations. At this time, we'll have a public hearing on ordinance 4-17 only. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance may do so at this time. Please address the council with the microphone, pronounce your name, spell it, and please give your address.
Anyone?
Come up, sir.
Good evening, John Maneri, M-A-N-E-R-I,
Thank you, John.
5 Austin Court.
Austin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm here today to speak about ordinance 417. What I'm about to discuss isn't just for the council or the people in this room, but for the people that are here in spirit as well. When I was entering 6th grade, my family had me attend a private Christian school in Lakewood called Calvary Academy. I graduated middle school there. A lot of great memories. My brother graduated high school there, spent his whole life there, my sister as well. Upon attending Calvary Academy, every day on the bus or the car or walking, I've had the pleasure of interacting with many from all religions and cultures out in Lakewood Township. So when I say today that I am against the dormitory construction plan, as far as building it, I am not saying that I am against any type of religion, way of life, morals. I have a great respect for a lot of religions. I've encountered a lot of different types of people, whether it be atheist, Christian, Muslims, Jewish. My issues with the proposed dormitories are not religion-based, but safety-based. I interact with a lot of people in this town every day, and I wish the best for them all. I don't want anything to change their way of life, as well as mine, in a negative way, and personally, I feel that allowing these dormitories to be built will do just that. I hope that after speaking to you all today, I won't make you form a negative opinion about the character of the Jackson residents, as that is the opposite of my intentions. The proposed dormitories in a suburban town such as this can be harmful not only to the people on the road, but to the people off the road. Every day on my way to work, I see children playing, folks walking or running, and a lot of dogs being walked. Such a quick increase in population in a concentrated area could mean a jump in motor vehicular accidents, which not only affects the drivers and the passengers, but the children, adults, and pets in our community. I'd like to use where I work for an example. I work at Six Flags Great Adventure. I'm sure a lot of people here have heard of it. The small 2-lane road that we know as 537 becomes a traffic hazard on certain dates throughout the year due to the large influx of traffic entering the park. It creates safety hazards as I see police helping those who just got into a fender bender or somebody that's walking on such a compacted road on their way to the restaurants out there. The increased population creates an issue for emergency response vehicles, as I've seen an ambulance take 12 minutes to exit 195 and get to the McDonald's that's less than a block away. I encourage the council here tonight to not build this or any other dormitory of any kind if it means affecting the safety and well-being of the residents of Jackson, New Jersey. Thank you.
Anyone else like to come forward? See nobody come forward, move on. Sorry.
Rona Needle, 87 Hickory Hill Road.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Rona, R-O-N-A, Needle, N-E-E-D-L-E. I am one of the unfortunate parents that has lost a child on our dangerous roads. These storms may and probably will present traffic nightmare. I also work at Kimball Medical Center and go down Cross Street, and it takes me an average of 25 minutes to get home from there. Not only that, I am Jewish, so this has nothing whatsoever. to do with any religion. This has to do with safety on our roads, our kids, our schools, our family members, and guests who do come here, whether it's Great Adventure or any other business. It has been very difficult over the last 8 years for me. If we pass something like this, I'm not sure how bad our roads are going to be, especially since they are county/state roads, as I was told back prior to my daughter's accident. I'm going back to 96, 97 school year, when Harmony Farms, when the school district asked to move the bus out of the development onto New Prospect. You guys want to approve it? Be careful. I'm only concerned about our residents. Thank you.
Anybody else? Please come forward if anybody else would like to be heard.
Seeing no one else come.
Okay, I'll say something. Cleary, C-L-E-R-Y.
I'm sorry?
Cleary, C-L-E-R-Y, Ellen. I'm not a speaker, but I live on 7 Kennedale Place. I did not come to Jackson to make it a large city. With dormitories, all these stores, all these buildings that you're building on these small lots. I'd like to keep it a bucolic area, as I thought it was 30 years ago when I moved here. Okay?
My name is Sherry Baker, 30 Villanova Drive. Basically, I want to say the same thing. I moved to Jackson because it was a rural town. That's one of the things I love about it, and I would like to keep it that way and not make a college town. So I think you should stick with the ordinance and not approve the thing, not approve it. Thank you.
Seeing no one come forward, we'll close.
Second.
All in favor?
Please line up to the microphone.
Peter Capalbo,
Peter, can you spell your last name?
C-A-P-A-L-B-O.
A-L-B-O?
Correct.
Thank you.
We moved here in December of 1962. We've done enough to develop the town. It's overdone.
Michael Jordan, 3 Lawrence Street.
I'm sorry, your address?
Michael Jordan, 3 Lawrence Street. My mom,
Just move over towards Michael Lewis.
my mom and dad moved here in 1961. I've seen all this little town. I've moved away, came back, moved away. My father is married to a Jewish woman. Has been for 35 years. They lived on Forsyth. Excuse me. I know what the population goes, and we're going to grow, no matter what. I go through Lakewood every single day. I go through Jackson every single day. I see what the buildings are. I see all this, the traffic. The lady said she works at the hospital. I used to work on that road. I quit working on that road because it would take me 20 minutes from Cross Street to go right up the street 1 mile just to get there. These dorms, I just learned about all this stuff because I don't do computers. I'm not I could care less. I got a cell phone. That's all. Okay? I don't, I'm not minding any of that. I see all the congestion. The lady said 30 years ago, this was a small city, but we grow. Everybody grows. We all know that. Lakewood is running out of room, so they're expanding. Whether we like that or not, the reason why jumping to every town is because there's no more room. Okay? If you go to Lakewood, you gotta
But
look at Jackson.
stay addressing the council, please, sir.
Yes, we live in Jackson, okay? If you go, you bring anybody in this country, and you would think Lakewood, New Jersey, and America is booming. Absolutely booming, the building. I do carpet for a living. I see all these housing, and I work all over the state. I don't see the population and the building that is going on in Lakewood on every single piece of grass. If you let this happen here, if you let the dorms come in, it's just gonna, the roads are gonna get worse than they've ever been. This is too small. We can only, you got, what's that old saying? 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. I'll leave the other word out. That's what we're doing. It's got to stop somewhere. Thank you.
Good evening, Rosario Herrero, 29 Oregon Avenue. I want to first say the reasons why I support this ordinance.
Rosario, please speak into the microphone, please. Thank you.
Okay, so I support you 100%. I have lived here since 1970. My whole life is here, and I have raised my children here. I have also sent them to school out of, the town. So I have experienced different things and my life here. So I feel that I can support you 100%. And I also feel that the Constitution also, as it has been expressed before in the first reading session, also protects the others, not just those that are coming here, as it was said at that time during that first session. Okay? Each one of us are a minority of one. So we are also need that protection. We feel, many of us here feel that the progression, the natural progression of things have not taken place. It has been, I have seen the change being too explosive, but that's not the natural way. Okay. Now, another first thing I want to make sure is I want to make sure that everybody knows we don't feel that this is anything to do with religion. It's just a practice that is now impinging on my rights. I don't want to impinge on their rights, but I don't want them impinging on my rights or some of these people here that are supporting them. Okay? And another thing that I found a little bit insulting was that this attorney being hired, Bishop from Washington, D.C., is really insulting us. Each one of us, this minority of one over here. I am a minority of one. Okay? And I have to respect my neighbor, and I have to respect other people's rights, but they have to respect mine. I want to remind you of an incident that happened, I think it was in March, on East End Avenue in Lakewood, that this high level contained 27 beds, had numerous male occupants, and was not registered with the state as a dormitory. I am afraid that being given the right to have dormitories, that could be a potential problem. Okay? So that's another reason that makes me worried. Okay? The other thing that I wanted to say was that even on my street, I have seen this place. Mark Jackson has been to me, he's living in the town, quiet, enjoyable, etc. As I said, this is why I'm here so many years. Just on my street, you can see that the traffic is people, it's a long block on Oregon Avenue, and it's being used as a U-turn to go to the abundant residents just behind me on the border with Lakewood, okay? So maybe there's nothing to be done about it, but that's one of the side effects, the problems, okay, of allowing overpopulation, overconstruction, overdevelopment. In my own development, it has changed. There's also a lot of transients, because in addition to moving in from other areas of New York, New Jersey, because it is a sleepy, nice little town, just like we have it, and that's great. But now it just keeps on building and building. And I have, LLCs that are popping up everywhere. And these LLCs are not necessarily buying the houses for finance. They're buying it to make business. I've seen it. I even had to call the county. I would have to call the town about this travel home that was owned by some investment LLC, and playing openly at the sign saying, more investors go here, okay? It's just making the town, in many areas of the town, especially close by to the Jackson, Lakewood border, it's making it, it's downgrading it, okay? And the homes adjacent to me, I have experienced very bad. One of these, I even tried to pursue the landlord myself, to try to talk to the landlord myself, who was registered in the public records to Lakewood. I went there several times, different times, knock on doors, not a sign to be found. Later on, I found out that this person was very hard to track, and it was only the town that was able to track. So the point I'm making with that is that this house was run down next to me. It was on cemetery and all that. Finally got rid of that. Now across the street, I have laborers that come and go, many trucks, pickup cars, and it just doesn't look like a nice family neighborhood.
I'm going to have to ask you to stick to the ordinance itself.
Well, I have
You know, I
the
understand
reasons
the
why I
problem.
said I support your ordinance.
That's what we have to, because we have a lot of people that want to speak, and I really appreciate you to stick to the
Well,
ordinance. And
I waited until the end.
No, I understand that.
Nobody was coming up, so that's why I waited, okay? Excuse
A lot of
me.
people are ready to speak now.
Okay, so I've seen changes too. I have no objection to anybody's religion. I don't want anybody to object to mine. And there's many people here that have different views, so it has nothing to do. And I'm getting tired of that being the go-to always.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Finware, and I reside at 32 Jefferson Court, Jackson.
Kevin, can you spell your last name?
VAN, capital W-I-E-R-E-N, first name Kevin.
And with your address in it?
32 32 Jefferson Court.
Thank you.
And we also have 75 Brookfield Drive, which is registered because I'm on my court. So my family and I moved here in 2003. I grew up in upstate New York and rural Michigan. And one of the reasons that attracted me here and moving from Hoboken and Jersey City, where I lived previously, is the fact that it was a bucolic sort of rural area, reminding me a lot of home. And in that time, we've raised 3 children. We have a 8-year-old son, a 5-year-old daughter, and an 18-month-old little boy. We moved out of a townhome development over off of East Veterans Highway because we were able to afford a home there and it had lots of space. And unfortunately, what we've seen is over the past 6 to 8 months, 3 of those homes have sold to LLCs. So they're basically neighbors without a face, right? It's merely a business. Tracking those back, we see that those are LLCs that are operating out of Lakewood. I'm going to keep this very brief because Villanova's on right now, and I will start with the graduate school. So, my concern here, and I'll take personal offense to the gentleman who lives on Grosstown Road for insulting my intelligence and the intelligence of other intelligent Jackson folks here by assuming that this is driven through anti-Semitics. Christian values. I'm a product of Catholic education. I go to church every week, and I believe in loving thy neighbor. And I support sensible growth in Jackson. What I don't support, however, are accusations and lobs and people luring up to exsanguinate the financial resources of this town by hiding behind the shroud of anti-Semitism. Absolutely not about the who, it's about the how and the what. And I support the ban on dormitories. Thank you.
Michael Firestone, 6 Georgia Boulevard.
Thank you.
I've been in this town for 26 years, and I've had a couple houses here, and you give me a hard time about a pool, a shed, and everything I've tried to go dormitories behind schools, and we all know Lakewood. Let me give you a for instance here. I had to go to the sleep center right on Route 9, right off James Street. And I work in this town, and it took me over an hour to get there, let alone get back. That's what's going to happen in this town if you allow this crap to happen. And like one of the residents here, I'm tired of being called anti-Semitic, anti-Semite, whatever you want to call me. Because somehow we don't want to do what they want, we're anti-Semitic. When we want to do what we want, we're still anti-Semitic. There's no word for opposite of anti-Semitic, because I tried to look it up. We're not the one who are racist here. All right? These people don't want what has happened to Lakewood to happen here. It's insane there. It's literally insane. That place can't handle what it has now, and they're venturing off to us. Pretty soon, this farmland, this Jackson was established how long ago, is going to look just like Lakewood. It can't handle what's happening now. If you allow this to happen now, it'll only go to not only schools, but behind homes. We see it right now. Every home becomes a temple, a school for the Jewish, and it's out of control. We're not racist, we're not anti-Semitic, we're anti-bullshit.
My name is Polly, P-O-L-L-Y, Sheehan, S-H-E-E-H-A-N. I live at 177 North Cooksbridge Road. I've been in this town since 1987. Since moving to this town, I've seen so much development. I've seen the end of my road changed. I've seen so much more traffic with all this development. My children are not safe in my driveway waiting for the bus. A few years ago, my 22-year-old, when she was in high school, almost got clipped in our driveway from somebody speeding around the corner. I shouldn't have to worry about that. But enough of that. We don't need any more development in this town. We have plenty. We don't need any more. There's like not enough woods for the animals. You all complain about the deers in your yard and stuff. It's because of all this development. We don't need any more. We're good the way we are. And I don't care what religion anybody
Bob Skinner, 404 Lawrenceburg Lane. Thank you. First of all, I want to say that it's only responsible for those of you on council and the mayor to support such an ordinance, mainly because of the fact that it is your jobs to make sure that we protect the township as best we can. It's also the job of mayor and council to make sure that we do not overbuild, that we control our building, that we control the way our town is shaped. Now, as far as the anti-Semitic rhetoric that's going on, I want to tell you, I'm personally upset about the whole thing. And it's mainly because of the fact that virtually every generation of my family has served in the military, number one. Number two, I will say that, today I'm wearing red, and I'm wearing the flag in honor of my father, okay? Reasoning behind that is because of the fact that he helped liberate Europe. He helped liberate all of us. So he guarded Wiesbaden, and he went to Paris. He landed on D-Day, okay? In fact, show and tell time. This is his key from Paris. He paid for this room with candy bars, Hershey bars, to stay in this room. And I keep this as a memento for a lot of reasons. But I'm just going to tell you, for anybody to call me anti-Semitic is saying that my father was. And I totally disagree with that, and I'm very upset by that. So here we go. All I'm going to say is I support the ordinance wholeheartedly, and I think it's only responsible that we protect the making of the town and the building of the town. All right, thank you.
Isaac Howell.
Pardon me?
Isaac Howell.
H-O-W-E-L-L?
T-like A-W-I-N. Address 41 Pitney Lane. Let me be very clear. I am actually 100% in support of this ordinance. What I am against is the way that it came about. Everybody up here has said that they're not anti-Semitic, and quite honestly, I believe them. I don't believe anybody has malignant intentions. I don't believe anybody is truly anti-Semitic in this town. Again, I don't know what's going on in people's minds, but I really don't believe that it's an anti-Semitic issue. However, this is not something which was addressed 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. It is something which is being addressed directly as a result of more Jews moving into the town. Now, since I've moved here, I have never once been reached out to by any of you. I don't think any of the Jewish community has been reached out to by any of you. I'm not talking about the people in the seats. I'm talking about the people up here.
Please keep the room quiet while he's speaking.
I have had code enforcement follow people home from my house because they committed the terrible, terrible crime of walking on a Friday night. Now, again, I moved from Lakewood. I don't like Lakewood. I don't like what happened to Lakewood. And I think 99% of the Jewish population is extremely upset with what is going on in Lakewood. Nobody likes to wait 20 minutes in traffic to get down Cross Street. Nobody likes the overpopulation. Nobody really enjoys it. Most of the people who are friends of mine who have moved to Jackson moved from Lakewood. We're not interested in it in Jackson. We actually would like to support you. However, there's going to have to be a dialogue. You're going to have to communicate with us, and it's going to have to be done in the right way. We do have needs. They're going to have to be addressed. And I just want to say something else, and I know it's not really, what's going on here tonight. Read all the social media and then tell me that there's really no anti-Semitism. There is. I don't believe that the people that came up here tonight are, but you guys have a terrible, terrible outlook of what we are.
Excuse me?
Please
Just
stop
said
the
you
comment
were
from the
anti-Semitic.
side.
Yeah, we are.
Stop.
I didn't say
Stop
you.
yelling to the audience.
I said a lot of what's going on in social media is anti-Semitic. I didn't say that.
Please speak to the council.
Okay. I think that if you guys would be intelligent and look to do the right thing, you should try to do everything you're doing, but get the Jews to support it, because quite frankly, we are in support of it. At least I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? Mike Kaminskis, 162 Susan Drive, Jackson, New Jersey. Kaminskis. First of all, I'd like to address you guys. You never reached out to me, but that's okay. These are all very intelligent people. The councils are always intelligent. That's how come we have this ordinance, to prevent these things from happening. I'm totally opposed to this storm. And I think the original council that made the ordinance sticks to that. We need to stick to like our founding fathers. We need to stick to the basis that this came on. We can't just change it. Social media, don't even go down that road, right? Fake news, everything else that they're going to call it. That doesn't play here. It plays by educated folks making an ordinance, something that we need to stick to, and the town people want you to stick to it. We're here to ask you to stick to it. It's just the bottom line. That's the bottom line of the message.
I'm sorry, Joseph, last name?
Flannery, F-L-A-N-N-E-R-Y. I reside at 1950 Lane.
Thank you.
I read an article about our 28th meeting here. And after reading the article by Mike Davis in the Asbury Park Press, I have to ask Trane Bornstein, an argument goal as she moved to Jackson in August, why did you move here? Was it for the peace and quiet, tree-lined streets? Because of proximity to work, maybe with the outstanding school system that Jackson has. These are legitimate reasons to move to the town. Or you're not living in the town a year and you're accusing the town of Jackson and its residents of targeting the Jewish population. It's not very neighborly or friendly, and definitely not a very good way to start making friends in the town. I see it a little different, Marty. I see the Jewish population as targeting Jackson, its residents, and neighboring communities. I don't see you moving here for the reasons above. I see you moving here to change or convert our towns to accommodate the small Jewish population that is just beginning to move into the towns adjacent to Lakewood, like Jackson, Manchester, Howell, Britain, Toms River. I see the Jewish population forcing and pushing the cultural and religious way of life on Jackson, its residents, and our neighbors, the way it has done in Lakewood for years. The Jewish population has been moving here for a year or two. They make up a very, very small part of our population, and yet you're speaking openly that you do a yeshiva, even a dormitory, which you're now fighting for. Only here a year or so, and the Jewish population feels it needs to build to accommodate themselves. It doesn't sound right or make sense. It took years and generations of growth before Jackson saw a need to build even a second high school. Now, before anyone who doesn't know me starts judging me for what I write or speak, I'd like to say that I'm writing this with a very open mind. People who do know me would confirm this. My wife of 25 years, who I love with all my heart, is Jewish. My children are Jewish. I have a sizable in-law family that is Jewish. There's a difference between my Jewish family and those of Lakewood. My family is what I like to call Americanized Jewish. Others say Westernized. Either way they did as my immigrant ancestors did. They came here, got their citizenship, and adapted to the American way of life, not try to change it. They practice their religion and traditions freely, openly, and without hate, bias, prejudice, or anti-Semitism. That is the Jackson way and what makes us American. Fame. On the contrary to your belief of what is American, it is the American way to fight for our way of life. The brave men and women of our military do it 24/7, and I applaud them as should every American. We have the right to fight for our way of life, and so we should. Knowing the Jewish population is not moving into our towns and communities to better them, to respect them, or for the reasons mentioned above. We like our way of life the way it is. That is the reason we have chosen to live here and move here. A way of life without imposing a culture or religion on my neighbor. Fame. You said we have a motive and you are insulted, not as insulted as I am. When you make a statement about a town, you have to remember it is the residents you refer to that make the town. I hear the words bias, hate, prejudice, and discrimination being used by the Jewish population. I am not biased. I don't discriminate. I am not prejudiced, and I don't hate. Call it what you will, but it is the Jewish population that planted the seeds of what is thought in the minds of those you accuse. Diane, you said we have, I'm sorry. Using the tactics the Jewish population did to move into Jackson and surrounding towns didn't make you many friends in these towns, I'm sure. If some of these tactics used to move into Jackson and surrounding neighborhoods weren't and would stop being used by the Jewish population, then maybe I would see things differently. But you didn't or haven't, so I don't. So before you force, push, and impose on your neighbors, be sure everyone's a plan in Lakewood that can be used to accommodate the growing population is used. And the roads are improved to handle the overflow of traffic that is caused. Only then should you look to your neighbors with compassion, understanding, and forgiveness, not before.
How you doing? My name is Jesse Capicato,
Jesse, can you spell your last name for me?
CAP, ICO, TTO. Live at 22 Castile Road.
Castle?
Castile.
Castle, thank you.
As a long life resident of this town, especially my parents, they moved in here in the 70s. My father owned a business here. My mother's a teacher here. I grew up with some of the policemen that are in this room, even some of the people that are on your council. Okay? They will know right off the bat, I am not biased whatsoever. Okay? But there is a line to be drawn. We cannot keep going with the amount of building that we are doing now. The building now that we are doing is enough. Just like everybody said, we came down here for royal trees and, changing of the colors and all that crap. Yes, we did. It's a nice scenic area. We do not want to change this into another city. Okay? Number one. Number two, the amount of biased crimes that everybody is saying that we are committing. I'm sorry, but your communities, if we're having to step in your communities, I'm surprised we're not shot on sight.
Just the council.
So that's one thing. Another thing is, if we ask you out for a beer, you'd look at us like we were nuts. Number three, this has nothing to do about bias, racism, black, white, straight, whatever it is. It has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with safety, the way our life is, and how we don't want to change it. Thank you.
My name is Joel Ross, R-O-S-S. I live at 71 Brookwood Parkway. My wife and I relocated to Jackson not too long ago, actually in 2010, from Brooklyn, New York. We know what it's like to be in a community that is overpopulated. We're from Brooklyn. I'm also a FedEx guy, and I have an interesting perspective because I've seen different communities, and I know my mayor because I delivered to his house. But I've seen different communities where the police officers are overwhelmed because the community is overbuilt. I don't have to be a rocket scientist. From my experience, if the community is overbuilt and overpopulated, will overwhelm our infrastructure. The police officer is not going to be safe anymore because I watched things happen as I kind of hide out in my truck waiting for a crime to finish because the community has changed over the years. It's a bad move. It's just a bad move all around. Some of us are talking about traffic. Traffic is the least of my concern. I've watched things happen from the FedEx perspective where we would drop a package to a building that's supposed to have one family in it, but because 5 families live in it, then we have theft happen. Then we have someone put their hands on something that they're not supposed to. Then we have the police involved. Then we have violence happen because someone's offended. I mean, there's so many things that could happen out of this one decision to overbuild our community. It's just a bad idea. And who was the gentleman that was speaking? Because he said that we're not reaching out to him. I live on 71 Brookwood Parkway, and I have some new neighbors, and I've been reaching out, but I don't get to interact with you because you're not reaching back out. When we moved in 2007, you can't come up here and make these general statements because I'm willing to reach out. I have reached out. I've said hi and I've been just passed by like I don't exist. The only time someone reached out to me from your community was when you walked on my property and asked my wife to sell our home.
The employee fined to limit the yelling and screaming has to cease. If you don't want to have to close the meeting and move on, or the floor, that's fine, but the yelling.
Sorry, I got to wrap up.
Not you, not you, sir. It's a response to you, sir, that's all.
When we relocated, my neighbors reached out to me, great people. Angelo across the street came over and he just brought his toolbox and the community just reached out, embraced us, and then the unique things started happening. Our kids never had sleepovers in Brooklyn because it just didn't happen. Now our kids are having sleepovers with all the neighbors. We live as a community, kids come over, they sleep over at our house, our kids go over, sleep at people's house, because we integrate. I'm not sure that the gentleman that was up here would have his son sleep over at my house or my kids sleep over at his house. And we're willing to do that because we have done that. So don't say that. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you're sitting right now. Don't say that we haven't reached out. That's the kind of people we are in Jackson. And that's all I've experienced as someone that relocated from New York to Jackson. Amen? So that's all I'm going to say to you tonight.
Good evening, Avi Schnall, AVI.
Spell your last name, please.
SCHNALL. I'm going to be very brief. 16 Meadow Lane. I'm going to be very brief.
I'm sorry.
16 Meadow Lane. I'm going to be brief. I've been sitting here in the front the entire evening, listening intently to every single comment. I've heard lots of things being said. I'm from Brooklyn. I moved here to Jersey. We like the quality of life. Every single member of the Orthodox Jewish community that moved to Jackson, I believe, moved here for the quality of life. I believe if you ask every member of the Orthodox community if they want to have a building in their backyard, they're going to tell you no. I know that every single member of the Orthodox community, if you ask them if they want to have a dormitory in their backyard, they will tell you no. There's one underlying comment that was made over and over again. So I have a simple question. The fear that the residents here tonight expressed is very clear. There's a rightful, understandable, and expected fear. And that's a fear of overdevelopment. That's the fear of ruining the beautiful community of Jackson. It is warranted. It is respected. It is appreciated. It is laudable. Thank you. See, here's my question. Why are we not addressing that issue head on? Why are we not addressing that problem? Has there been an ordinance considered regarding developing in Jackson? Has there been an ordinance considered regarding how many new houses will be permitted to be built in 1 year? Have we considered making a memorandum on no more construction and no more building? But we have not. We have came to a conclusion that the issue that we have to address, that's going to stop all the traffic, that's going to maintain the quality of life, the answer to all of our fears. What's the answer? We're not going to let a dormitory be built next door to Six Flags. Does that make sense? I don't see the logic. Obviously, people here see the logic. I would love if any of the council members would address the question that I'm asking. Six Flags has how many trailers parked outside as dormitories? How many trailers is their job? Of course. And students go to school. And residents live here. If we are concerned about traffic and overdevelopment, let's address that problem. How many hundreds of emails, and I'll say hundreds, of emails has every single member of this council received? Every single member of this council received, including the mayor, asking, let's make an ordinance to preserve the quality of life. Let's come to the table and do something concrete. How many people live in a dormitory? You'll say 20, you'll say 30. They don't have cars, we know they don't have cars. That's not adding traffic. So the answer is, I believe, and I've yet to be told otherwise, this ordinance is focusing on the wrong thing. I will not go down the route that many of you expect me to, because I don't believe it. I truly don't believe it. But I question why is this the primary issue? I question why is this the focus? 300, 200 members of Jackson should stand up here and say, we don't want any more buildings. We don't want any more construction. We don't want any more developments. That should be the priority.
Stop.
And my last question is, with all the meetings that might have taken place, no ordinance was produced. No ordinance was produced. This is the only ordinance this year that was produced to address overdevelopment. Something is ironic. Thank you.
I am in favor of this ordinance because it fits the master plan of this township. This township has a brilliantly devised master plan that protects this town from overdevelopment and the wrong kind of construction. Nobody in this town wants a high school built in the middle of a residential block. Nobody in this town wants a dormitory built in the middle of a residential block. And certainly nobody in this town wants an illegal dormitory built in a 4-bedroom house like they have in the other towns. They've been burned to the ground, and God forbid, if they were very lucky, thank God for their God. And the owner of that house was fined $100. $1. Sorry, I got my facts wrong. $1. We have a master plan. That is what controls development. And the master plan of this town protects us from overdevelopment. And this ordinance fits perfectly in the master plan. I support it. I thank you for putting it forward. And I look forward to you all voting for it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Abraham?
R-E-I-C-H, 43 Ashford Road.
Thank you.
I moved to Jackson. I actually just moved a little bit a month and a half ago. 2 months ago. I closed on December 29th. The next Saturday, which was January 7th, me and my wife had our first child. We went in on Saturday to the hospital. Being that I was also, as a juvenile, I drive, and unless it's light necessary, but if I can get the car service, that's better. So my car was sitting in my driveway. If anyone remembers, that Saturday it snowed. I came back Saturday night, and no one neighbors had any idea that I left, and my sidewalk was flat. I have to say, it really made me feel very happy to live in Jackson. Really feel very touched. They didn't even know that I went to the hospital. They shoveled my snow, and I very much appreciate living in Jackson. I actually lived in my whole life, and part of the reason why I moved to Jackson, I had an option of buying with the building all over Lake with a duplex or moving out to Jackson, and I decided I do not want to live in a duplex. I want to live in a house with my own yard and my own and with the space and trees and the real quality of life. Everyone's talking about dormitories and traffic. I have to say I was in 3 different dormitories in my life, in America, and 1 in Israel, and now once that I have a car. So everyone's saying that all the dormitories are going to add so much traffic. Maybe for the few teachers they're going to have to go travel every day. It shouldn't make that much traffic. Second of all, everyone told me about building a dormitory in a house. I do not want a dormitory next door to me either. I do not want a dormitory in a residential area. The only thing I would ask is if it's zoned correctly, and if the zoning laws allow it, why can't we build a dormitory in a proper zoned area? Why are we making an all-out ban on dormitories? That's what I am not understanding about this ordinance. Where does an all-out ban on dormitories come from? And that would be, thank you.
At this point, I'm going to make a motion to close the public portion of the meeting. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to thank you all for your comments and your patience and the courtesy given to the people speaking. You have a lot of opinions, and that's what this is about, and the freedoms we have. So, Anne Marie?
Motion to approve ordinance 4-17 on second reading, advertise the notice of passage and approval in the approved newspaper as required by law.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Calogero.
Today I sit on this stage with a heavy heart. While I respect and welcome all ethnicities, religions, and cultures who pass through our borders and call Jackson home, I am deeply concerned how in one breath Jackson is portrayed as a diverse, welcoming, tolerant community. And with the same breath is called anti-Semitic because of a difference of opinion. The reality is this ordinance is not against any specific race or religion, and only a bigoted person would think as much. If we also try to preserve our current suburban culture, reduce suburban sprawl, and eliminate unwanted overdevelopment within our township. Mayor Reyna, if these ordinances receive the necessary votes to pass, I respectfully request you immediately sign them into law. Having said that, I vote yes.
Councilman Martin.
The year was 1971. A 36-year-old father of 2 and his wife moved from the concrete jungles of New York because he wanted his children to have a backyard to play in. I was 4 years old at that time, and I still remember coming across the Arizona Bridge. I have various images of living in New York, but not a lot. But I do remember my father talking about how much he loved living in New York, how much he loved living there, but he wanted better for his children. He wanted his children to live in a community with parks, where people knew each other, everybody knew each other in town, where there was recreation, and it was a beautiful country-esque atmosphere. I've seen a lot of changes since 1971, as we all have. Lived here, I'm 49 years old now. I have 6 children of my own who are going through the school system. And I want for my children what my father wanted for us. To keep the integrity, the beauty, the wonder it is Jackson. This ordinance is consistent with the master plan that we amended in 2009 and protects my father's dream for this town. I vote yes.
Council Vice President Updegray.
Yes.
Council President Marcy.
You've heard the words master plan thrown out a lot tonight. I had the privilege of working on a master plan in the early 90s. I had the privilege of working on this last master plan. And this ordinance is totally 100% consistent with the master plan, which is the blueprint of this town for the future, and I vote yes. The ordinance passes.
Okay, we have one more item left, and that would be public comment, any topic. At this time, we will have public comments on any topic. Anyone wishing to speak on any topic may do so at this time. Please address the council with the microphone. Announce your name, spell it, please give your address. Brandon, welcome to the report.
Okay, I said, anybody that is leaving or moving around, please try to do it quietly. We're still running the meeting and people speaking.
When people move to a new town, the most common reason is to improve their quality of life. It's important that new residents become part of the fabric in their new surroundings. We saw this happen when the Brookwoods and Flair were built, and we saw this occur again when 3 large senior communities were constructed. The newest group to choose Jackson should realize that they have chosen change. Part of this change means municipal services will be different. We have an excellent police force, therefore there is no need for private patrols. Our ambulance and first aid is also excellent. If some of the newcomers feel uncomfortable because of religious needs, then why not volunteer and join in? As far as I know, there have not been any bias incidents in town. There may have been some stupid and inflammatory comments on Facebook by some individuals, but a large majority of Jackson residents have welcomed and befriended new residents. I have personally spoken to numerous residents at council meetings, and it seems as if everyone's spoken to Morty from California Avenue. All have said that they moved to Jackson to get away from the severe overcrowding and impossible traffic in their former town. All of them appreciate the quiet, the open space, and the many amenities Jackson has to offer. If there are problems, instead of attending council meetings and meet the mayor meetings and sitting there quietly, then come to the microphone, speak up, and let the community hear your concerns and needs. Closed doors meetings only lead to rumors and innuendos. The residents of Jackson are that overly aggressive realtors whose tactics border on blockbusting, and that investors purchasing many homes under anonymous LLC umbrellas will be a threat to the quality of life that they have known to, that they have come to know and love in Jackson. It is felt these parties have no interest in Jackson other than to line their own pockets. I have a few comments about the last council meeting. There will be some paraphrasing from an article by Peter Bradley that appeared on a website named Lost Messiah, in which he quoted Rockland County Executive Dead and Rockland County Assemblyman's Forescape. What occurred at the last council meeting was a performance by a finely tuned lobbyist group at its best. Surrounding the room with supporters who were strategically placed was to attract attention and to create intimidation and divisiveness among Jackson residents. The big guns, the New Jersey leader of the group, and the Washington attorney were brought in from the outside of Jackson to push their agenda. Neither of them lives in our community, or works in our community, or represents our community. It is clear they know very little about the good people of our hometown Jackson. It is outrageous and demeaning to our residents to suggest that any anti-Semitism is being sown by the Jackson community and its government. Anti-Semitism has no place in society, and we all unite against it. So cease your disparaging statements. No just means no. It's spelled with 2 letters, not the 12 letters that are being thrown out in public. In conclusion, I must address the recent attempt to disparage our language professionals. Men like Evan Hill and Ernie Peters have served Jackson Township with knowledge and professionalism. I want to thank them for their continued guidance when advising our boards about applications concerning our master plan. They do an outstanding job, and I am personally glad that they are the ones that the land use boards have chosen to hire. Thank you for your time.
Would anyone else like to be heard this evening?
Seeing no one come forward, move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to close the meeting.